as they ministered to the Lord and fasted, the Holy Spirit said, now separate to me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them. You see it right there? It's very clear. See it where it says liturgy right there? You see it? In case you don't know, that word ministered, that's a special word, ministered. It doesn't mean ministered the way you would say like ministered to the homeless or ministered to, like volunteering in the church. Or not that kind of ministered. That word ministered, we see that in different places. This word ministered, I'll tell you what it is in Greek, and you see if you can figure this out here. We'll put on our linguistics caps. The word in Greek is liturgonton. Liturgonton sounds a lot like what? Liturgy. It's the same word. So let me read it again. As they liturgied to the Lord. Because we already agreed before, liturgy just means a group of people getting together and do something together. It just meant corporate prayer. As they corporately pray together. And the other clue that shows us, as they liturgy together and fasted, which is what we do. We fast. We don't fast before we go serve the homeless. We don't fast before we clean up the chairs, but we do fast before we liturgy together. So as they liturgy to the Lord and fasted, then the Holy Spirit spoke to them and said, separate Barnabas and Saul for me. So what you see right here, New Testament, Acts 13, this is roughly the year 50 AD, roughly less than 2 decades after Christ's ascension, resurrection, ascension. Roughly 2 decades, we see signs of the liturgy right there. And in fact, what I like about this passage right here is this liturgy. Holy Spirit is speaking to them. Sometimes people come to me and say, liturgy is boring. Liturgy is dry. Liturgy is routine. And I have a famous response to that. People know my response to that. I've said it many times. Someone comes to me and says, liturgy is boring. You know what I respond? I say, you are boring. Your face is boring. What are you talking about? Liturgy is boring. Liturgy is not boring. Just because you don't know what you're doing, just because you don't understand it, just because you don't believe, that doesn't mean it's boring. It's just because you waddled out of bed at 10 o'clock, okay, barely remember to brush your teeth, and you kind of straggled on in 15 minutes before the end and said it's boring. You're boring. Liturgy is not boring. Liturgy is spirit-filled. Liturgy is dynamic. Liturgy is where the Holy Spirit is speaking. It's lively. It's fire. It's alive. That's what liturgy is. Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means that you are boring. That's number one. Liturgical worship is biblical. But here's the more important of it. Here's the more important. You know why liturgical worship is biblical? Liturgical worship is biblical because liturgical worship is heavenly. And when I say heavenly, I don't mean heavenly in a like a bowl of ice cream. Wasn't that heavenly? I don't mean it like that. I mean like literally, that's what worship in heaven looks like, sounds like, tastes like, feels like.